Almost half past the hour here, and fresh attention is being paid to the infamous White House cocaine investigation after the world saw newly released photos this week. And let's pop these up for you here because you can see the bag of white powder inside of a cubby used by visitors in a highly secure area near the west entrance, near the Situation Room. It prompted an evacuation of the West Wing back in July before it was later determined to be a bag of cocaine. President Biden and his family were at Camp David at the time. Kamala Harris was also out of town in Los Angeles. The Secret Service ended the investigation less than 2 weeks later, citing a lack of physical evidence. Let's bring in NewsNation media contributor Steve Krakauer. He's also the author of the book Uncovered: How the Media Got Cozy with Power, Abandoned Its Principles, and Lost the People. Steve, I've been so eager to talk to you about this one. You and I talked back in July when this story first broke wide open. It is certainly suspicious that an investigation of this magnitude and nature was closed after just 11 days. You think the results coming back inconclusive with no suspects or culprit is actually not believable. So your new thoughts after seeing these new photos?
Yeah, I think the photos and the other information that came out through the FOIA, the Freedom of Information Act request, gives us a little bit more light on the fact that it's kind of just this mundane bag of cocaine. It's not some hidden contraption. This is a pretty, you would think, open and shut case, particularly for where it was found. And it leads me to one of three conclusions. And I think we kind of talked about this originally, but this even more so now. Either one of the areas in the entire country that should be the most secure is not secure. There should be security cameras. There should be certainly Secret Service. That is actually not the case. Or those investigating this case, whether it's Secret Service, FBI, were incentivized not to do a good job with it, or they know more than they're saying. And I don't think that the information that we've seen today, the pictures, the FOIA information, the handwritten notes, gives us any indication on which of those three it is, but none of them are good. If it really is true that they couldn't find the culprit and that they have no leads, they're just going to close it with no leads, that's not this great story. Yeah. We need to be knowing more. And if the story is that it's about a security failure, then let's follow that lead too.
It's terribly sad that one of the options we're considering here is a possible government cover-up. And to your point, you know, it found that this was to your words, a mundane bag of cocaine. What happens when this turns into a bag of fentanyl? And it's in the same house as the president and the vice president of the United States. You know, that's the big question at hand. The Secret Service said there were roughly 500 people who could have brought in this cocaine. How is the Secret Service simply okay with ending the investigation? This is shut. We're closing it. You know, when you're talking about drugs within this kind of proximity of the president.
Yeah, right. Exactly. All right. Maybe fentanyl, or as they originally thought it might be, as it was originally reported, potentially a more dangerous substance. When they heard white powder, your mind, when you think of like a government official, you don't think of cocaine. You think of something actually potentially more dangerous there. So yeah, I think that this is a huge story. And I have to say, when I originally was covering this story, I talked to Sean Spicer, also NewsNation contributor, who obviously knows that area very well from his former job in the West Wing. And he said, no, they might say it's 500. That's not the case. There are only two kinds of people that have access to that specific area of the White House. That is either people with very high level security passes, security badges that can get you there, not 500 people, or guests of those people. It's a short list. You could very easily find that it's either an employee of the White House or it's someone with a connection to those employees. That's it. And it's interesting, obviously, the fact that the Biden family was away when it was found, but of course they weren't away a couple of days earlier, and they were back shortly after. So look, it's very clear that there was not a huge investigation on it. And at the end of the day, as we see, it's not the biggest deal in the world in this particular case, but it is an example of what could be. It could be worse, and also it just does not pass the credulity test to say that they did not have any leads at all and they're closing this. It does not make any sense.
Yeah, and even when you talk about, you know, guests of the West Wing, it's not like people working in the West Wing just bring in their family members, whoever. I've been to the West Wing. Everybody is scanned. You give over your driver's license. There's security there. I mean, it seems like a secure operation. There's obviously, you know, missing protocols. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.